pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now to the Texas flag.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one indivisible.
Have anybody signed up for citizen comments?
No.
Fred.
All right,
Texas.
I'd like to request closed session to discuss employee compensation.
So now we'll go into closed session. Under the Texas Government Code Section 551.001, deliberation on the appointment, employment compensation, evaluation, assignment, duties, discipline, or dismissal of employees pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.074.
All right.
You got, did you get?
it's so cold in here.
It is chilly.
Thought the virus did better in the cold than in hot in here. Bermuda.
All right.
Ready? Okay, it's 12:57 and we're coming back out from closed sessions. Dr. Sanchez, if you'll start with what you have for us.
All of these items that I'm going to share with the board are thoughts, plans, ideas, and considerations that the administrative team and I have been working through over the last week. Before Governor Abbott called a closure to schools for the next 2 weeks, we had already begun planning and anticipating that we would be closed for 2 weeks. So fortunately for us, we were ahead in that we were planning for a 2-week closure before the governor issued an executive order requiring all schools to close for 2 weeks. So what you see up here has been our process as we were thinking through what a 2-week closure would look like in PISD, not wanting to be caught unprepared. The first aspect up here is compensation. The resolution that I'll be asking you to vote on here after I go through these items would allow me the authority to ensure over the next 2 weeks that professional certified, which are teachers, administrators, and all other people hired within the district required to have certification, continue to be paid, even if they're not in class in front of students, as long as they're available for us to communicate with as we begin planning instruction. Now, we're not asking people to come in to buildings or run copies or run packets. We're not doing any of that. The next is professional non-certified. These are instructors who are on our District of Innovation waiver, where they teach but are not certified teachers, but are pursuing certification. Paraprofessional, maintenance custodial, I'll discuss a little further on, we will have them coming in groups of 2 and on shifts, but they won't be working their full day. I mean, they're going to be coming in on shifts. We can't have everyone in. Tutors and substitutes, we're recommending taking the average from January and February of the amount of time they tutored and or served as substitutes to provide them compensation for the next 2 weeks, because their bills still come. And we want to be sure that we honor them and thank them for coming in and helping us when we are in session. And then other temporary hourly would be lunch monitors, crossing guards, and everyone who fits within that other temporary or hourly status. Basically, everyone in the district who is a direct district employee for the next 2 weeks would receive their regular compensation, or, as I mentioned with tutors and subs, an average of what they've done to this point, January and February. So that's for the next 2 weeks. If the governor were to extend this to a third week, we would extend this to a third week. If the governor were to say all school is canceled for the 2019-20 school year, at that point, we would pay everyone out as if they were working to the last day they would have to report in May. So that means, for example, teachers, their compensation is annualized, so it's spread out over 12 months. Unless they ask for it over 10, then they're still going to get it in 10. When you take a look at paraprofessionals, if they go off contract at the end of May, it would be the same. The same thing with the other positions you see there. So in essence, if the school year were canceled, we would function compensation-wise as if we were in session with all of these groups up until the last day that they would work in a regular circumstance. Are there any questions?
Got another clarification there, Dr. Sanchez. Whether it's a certified employee or at-will employee, if you're going to come in scheduled, not working a full day, just a clarification, they will get paid for the full time, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That would be what
Okay.
I'm asking for authority to do. Yes, sir.
And we have enough in supply in our fund balance to do this for 6 months if we had to, but our fund balance is healthy enough that we're able to do this, correct?
Yes, ma'am. We have 6 months worth of, right near 6 months worth of fund balance. Where that's a safety net for the district is here. If the bureaucracy in Austin, if their gears were to grind to a halt and they don't have people available to run the math and send the check for us to, I mean, it's not a literal check, but to make the download available for us, and they're not able to make that funding available, we still have the funding available to do this. And then at the point in time that Austin would then reimburse us, we put that money back in. So yes, ma'am, very good question, and we do have the ability to compensate employees at least for 6 months. On the hiring process, those that are in the process of being hired, we would continue the hiring process, but we would move to either phone-based or online. So we could Skype in an interview, or we could do a phone interview. The persons responsible would be our instructional directors. They'll continue to screen candidates, and then they'll make principals aware that the candidates are eligible for them to interview and make sure they're a match for the campus. Once the principals recommend them, Ms. Merrick will take it from there. We'll get them a letter of reasonable assurance. We'll let them know that once everything normalizes, they can come in, because a lot of the onboarding has to be done in person. Driver's license, social security card, service record, a lot of the other stuff you have to fill out has to be done in person. But as much assurance as we can give them that you are hired, we're going to do that. So, for example, we're in the process of hiring one of the coordinators for the football position. And so we'll continue going through as far as we can go up until things normalize. So we will continue for the positions we have posted to hire, but it'll all be virtual. So the good thing is people send their resumes in virtually. We can look at them virtually. We can call them and screen them virtually. And we're not the only district that's in this situation, so people will be available to visit with us. And then we'll move through the regular process outside of being able to come in and fill out the packets. A lot of that, again, is you can't send us a scanned copy of your driver's license. We want to make sure that it is a legitimate driver's license that we are scanning. Same thing with Social Security and everything else. In terms of securing schools, principals will control entry onto the campus. And what we're asking them to do Monday and Tuesday is to set up a schedule by which they bring in less than 10 teachers at a time to get their plans, whatever instructional materials they might want to take home, what other items that are theirs that they want to take home, as well as to take down the science experiments that they might have growing stuff. Hopefully no one left the class pet over these last 2 weeks, but he's probably dead. But to be able to clean all that stuff out. So the principals will work that schedule out on their own campus. They'll communicate it to Mr. Brown. Mr. Brown communicated it to me. And then they'll communicate it to their staff to let them know when to come in. We'll ask that they set enough time for people to clear out. So that way they come, second grade comes in, before third grade comes in, they clear out. Then third grade comes in, fourth grade, so on and so forth. We're also asking principals to assess their technology assets on campus in terms of laptops. So we do have teachers that participated in our district laptop initiative. They're already set. So they may just need to come and pick up their laptop, because I don't blame them if they didn't take their laptop home with them over spring break. I wouldn't. So they can come in, pick up their laptop, pick up their cord, and then go home and have their laptop with them. If they didn't participate in our laptop initiative, we do have laptop carts on every campus. Migrant has some laptops, EL has some laptops, XED has some laptops. So we'll be working through Dr. Richburg and his team to determine which laptops will best suit teachers to be lent out during this 2-week period, so they'll have access to whatever they need access to. Chief De La Garza will ensure that our schools are patrolled and that they are secured. So the officers will have shifts, and I'll leave that to the discretion of him of when he wants them to be heavier, when he wants them to be lighter, and what that will look like. Now, I did visit with Chief De La Garza some about community-wide assistance. If the board is okay with it, if, for example, we have a unit going from Highland to Hillcrest, and they run across a traffic accident, or they run across some kind of person in distress, we have pledged in this very trying time, we have pledged to assist, just as they have pledged to assist. So for example, if they see somebody breaking into one of our schools, they're not going to sit out there and go, hey, Julio, you need to go in to PHS, or breaking into PHS. They're going to assist us just like we're going to assist them. So right now, all law enforcement agencies are going to assist each other, because it's just such a different circumstance. So if you're okay with that, as part of the resolution, I would pledge our assurance to county, state, and PD that will render assistance as they pledge they will render assistance in return. I just wanted to say that because I know sometimes y'all get phone calls, as do I. Why are the police officers securing a traffic accident, or why are the police officers doing this? Well, in this circumstance, it's urgent. We will have maintenance, custodial going through. We have old buildings, and again, we were blessed with a bond, so we're looking forward to building some new ones, but they are old. And without people in them, stuff leaks, and there could be other issues, so we want to be sure that we do have maintenance, custodial going in on shifts, making sure that we don't have any leaks, we don't have any issues with HVAC, no one leaves something on when they went to clean out their classroom and get what they need that they shouldn't have, sinks running, things like that that sometimes people forget. So we're going to have them going through and checking on buildings. Now, the grass still grows, and so we're still going to have crews out maintaining them. So over these 2 weeks, we're not just going to let them get overgrown. We're going to continue to do that, as it's usually 1 or 2 guys on the lawnmower going through the campus, and they can do that individually. Work in progress with the bond will continue. Right now, we're not doing anything. It's Park Hill, Smith and Cooper that has surveyors. They also have people out with drones that are kind of capturing the topography of everything. So they're going to still be out doing their thing, and all of that will continue. That'll be incumbent upon those employers to make sure that their guys are healthy. Now, if our crews run across somebody that just looks really bad, they'll let Dr. Garcia know, and he and I will then communicate with that contractor that they got a guy or two that looks really bad and they need to clear out. And then we'll let the building set, and then we'll go back in and we'll disinfect it. Communication with the public. During this time, we'll use all district communication assets. That's parents who have given us their number, text message, phone calls in English and Spanish, social media, as well as district webpage and our call-out system. So as we have information for the public, we'll make it available through all those avenues. Hopefully people won't put us on call block, but we do want to let them know what's going on. We will translate information. We have 2 people in the office that can do the translation from English to Spanish. Our communication officer will work with the instructional directors to share links for instruction and instructional resources. And we're also going to set up a page via social media where if parents or people have questions that we haven't addressed in this presentation or they haven't felt have been addressed through our phone calls or other social media or communication posts, they can post their question there. And then Ms. Hernandez and I will get it to the right people, get the right answer, make sure it's factual, and then we'll post a response. And so we're going to run that FAQ. It'll be like an FAQ feed on our social media. We will follow all state TEA guidance on disaster emergency waivers to ensure that the district is reimbursed for expenses during this time. All financial documents due for compliance purposes will stay within guidelines, and TEA is extending some of those guidelines. So Ms. Chapa and her team, she'll be bringing them in on an as-needed basis in this building. We will ensure that we don't have more than 10 people at a time after tomorrow in this building, because that's that comes straight from the governor, and that's been enforced at the local level as well. So we have a city 10 or more prohibition. Yes, sir.
Dr. Sanchez, that's what I was going to refer to. I had a question back to the patrolling. Is that going to be to the PISD police officers or the administrator in charge, or who's going to control that, the flow of traffic in that situation?
It'll be Chief de la Garza that'll be working through ensuring all of that. So it'll all run through him. So he's going to be very busy, just like us. I mean, it'll be radio and phone. So he'll coordinate all that.
And that's going to include contractors if they're working on the facility as well, correct?
He and Dr. Garcia will work on that. So Dr. Garcia and Chief de la Garza will have direct communication on any contractors that are going to be on any facility, so they'll know that if they're there with a drone or on the grounds, that they're supposed to be there. So they'll communicate with Dr. Garcia, who will communicate then with Chief de la Garza, and he'll communicate out with his officers to let them know who's there, who shouldn't be, at what times. The same thing, principals will have access, principals and APs will have access to their campus because it's just 2 of them. And they'll be on campus on an as-needed basis. But all of this communication, we have radios where I believe we have one channel where the administrators and PD can all hear each other. So we have communication set up to where anything that the PD are discussing, our administrators on campus can hear, and if our administrators on campus need them, they can radio in, and whoever is on patrol will get that call. So we were very fortunate that Dr. Garcia and he and Chief de la Garza set that up just last week. So I mean, it was good timing. In terms of awareness of any requirements for testing purposes, as well as TELPAS, initially TELPAS had been extended, which is if you'll remember during the presentation that was done last week, TELPAS is the language assessment for English language learners. All the tests have been canceled except that one. They'd extended it, but now that the governor's called off school, well, that's canceled as well. So there is no state testing this year. I repeat, no state testing this year. So if you're a senior and you needed 1 EOC more to graduate, as long as you pass all your classes and meet all other graduation requirements, you graduate. If you're a freshman or a sophomore and you're taking those EOC classes, what we received in guidance is you get a pass on it. So all the freshmen, the EOCs that they had to take, they're gonna basically be given a passing grade, or they'll basically be denoted as passed. Now that still means next year, when we're back in session, if they took English 1, if they would have taken English 1 EOC this year, or Algebra 1 EOC this year, they will have to take English 2 EOC. It doesn't mean they're excluded forever, just from this year. The seniors, however, if you have a senior who hasn't passed any EOC, but meets all other graduation requirements, this is your year. You graduate. So I want to be real clear in that. So for those seniors out there that are 2 or 3 EOCs away or more, pass your classes and you graduate. I'll talk about that a little further down. Feeding students. These are the questions that we went through. Who's preparing food? SFE is preparing food. We have 3 locations where they'll be preparing food. The largest location will be PHS. We're going to communicate after this meeting that Monday we'll begin with Curbside Services. Curbside Services are exactly what every other restaurant in the state of Texas is required to do during this 2-week period. We can't have any dining inside any of our facilities. So basically we'll have the food in brown bags ready to go, or another container. People drive up. We're not asking for ID. We're not asking for your driver's license. We're not asking for anything. They drive up, they have kids, we hand it to them. And we're looking at doing this 7 days out of the week. So you drive up, we hand it to you, drive off. So what if people don't have a vehicle or transportation? What we're also going to communicate after this meeting is call us. And we'll begin setting up a bus route using First Student, which is our transportation company, to where we'll package the meals, load them on the bus, and use First Student to help deliver those meals. Now, we'll need people to call us as soon as possible because it'll take a day or 2 to set up those routes. So if you call us today, it may be Tuesday or Wednesday before we begin delivering it, because we'll need to coordinate with First Student. We'll need to get the address. We'll need to build the route. We'll need to know how many people we need on the bus, and then we'll deliver it. So if we do have some areas that are like high request areas, initially I think we're looking at Ash, Thunderbird, and PHS. If all of a sudden Hillcrest has a big need, and instead of running the bus route there, we may just look at Hillcrest as a location. So we're going to start small, and we're going to expand just off some guidance we got from SFE, that in I think it was a district of how many?
7,000.
Of 7,000, they got ready for a district worth of 7,000 meals and only had 3 kids show up. And they had a lot of leftover food. So we want to be sure we start small and go to scale instead of start large and then throw a bunch of food away when you can't even find a package of ground meat at the grocery store. So we want to be real judicious. On supply chain, SFE has assured us that they have sufficient supply chain through their warehousing for the next 2 months. So they feel like they're good for the next 2 months, which is what we run until school's out.
Dr. Sanchez, will that be lunch and breakfast or just lunch?
Lunch and breakfast.
Lunch and breakfast.
And it's not going to be, I mean, the really nice, good-looking burritos. I wish it was. It might be a granola bar or fruit. It may be a hot dog and a hamburger. I mean, it's not going to be the good-looking potatoes and all the other good stuff that we've been serving. It's going to have to be something we can prepare quickly, that won't spoil, that we can put in a bag, that we can send out, because we're going to give them their breakfast and lunch in the same bag. So basically, you show up Monday, you'll get what would be the equivalent of breakfast and lunch in the bag. So you can eat your lunch and then save your breakfast for the next day and cycle it as we go forward. And then on Friday, we'll give you the meal for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Oh, okay.
Now, Snack Pack is also offered to help, so Dr. Garcia is going to work with Snack Pack to see how they can pitch in and help us. So we're going to coordinate with them, and we appreciate they're willing to coordinate with us. But we're going to be, I mean, when you can't find food at the grocery stores locally, we're going to be very generous with this. These are taxpayer dollars, and the people that will be serving this food to are taxpayers. And this food was meant for the kids, and it's in the warehouse for the next 2 months. And it should go to the kids. So that's our intent, is we're going to do everything we can to get it out. So we'll start with 3. We're going to advertise it. People can drop by, pick it up. They'll pick up Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, 2 meals at one time. Friday, they'll pick up their meal for the weekend and their meal for Friday. We're going to put the number out for them to call via social media. We'll have someone available to take their information down. And then we'll run the bus route. As soon as we can get those built, we'll run them out and we'll we'll deliver the meals. It'll be also curbside though, where the bus will be there. I mean, we're not gonna go knock on the door and hand it. We're gonna show up and we're gonna ask that, be on the lookout that as we come through, we'll stop, we'll ask people to come out, and we wanna have minimized contact. So we wanna hand it out, thank you, hand it out, thank you, hand it out, thank you, and go. We don't wanna have a lot of dialogue back and forth or 20 people waiting. So it's going to be hand and go, hand and go, hand and go. Yeah, and it's for 18 years of age and under. So anyone 18 years of age and under. You could be homeschool, you could be private school, you could be charter school, you could be no school. 18 years and under, you're eligible. Instructional considerations. It doesn't make sense to take grades for the next 2 weeks. It just doesn't. Here are the considerations. We have quite a few staff who have kids. It's unreasonable to ask them to do what professors do at the university with online classes. Create your Blackboard, put your content, post your statements, respond to the statements, because we have many staff who have kids at home. So we can't commit them to that while they're also having to take care of their families. Because then they got to help their kids get online and do their stuff too. So we have to be very thoughtful, we have to be very reasonable with that. So grades basically stop for the next 2 weeks. The resources that we'll put online will be to maintain what's been taught. We believe that there is no substitute for a teacher. So to say that we can introduce new content without a teacher, I think would be sending the wrong message. It would be sending a very untruthful and inaccurate message to say that we can continue to teach you online like we teach you in the classroom. We value our teachers way more than to make a statement like that. We know that teachers make the difference in the classroom with kids. So great stuff for 2 weeks. The resources that will be available for parents and for students will be to maintain what's been taught. Now, at the secondary level, we'll use Google Classroom, which you can get to with any Apple, Android, or Microsoft application, any phone, computer, smart device. At the elementary, we're looking at Class Dojo, same thing. Smartphone, laptop, you can get to it. And it's to be able to pull information, to consume information. Over the next week, beginning Monday, we'll spend the entire week planning what that is going to look like. So next week, it's virtually an extended spring break because I can't ask teachers to come in and just start pumping stuff out to be ready Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We want to be sure that what we send out, that the links work, that the content is age appropriate, that if you have to have a login or a password, we find a way around where you can still log in to like iStation, iReady. And we appreciate iReady. We just began work with them and they said whatever assistance we need from them, they'll be available. And they provide some quality content. I know I'm burnt out from my station, but hey, it's there and I'm gonna put them on it. So we'll use some of those resources that are available there. We'll have some instructional videos. So that's for people who do have access to technology. Now, I'll talk to you before I'm done with this about people who don't have access to technology. Teachers will not grade content. I mean, we're not going to say sit at home with your laptop and grade content. It's just not tenable. But what we will ask is for teachers to be available as the teams that come in to build. I mean, you know, we do have our instructional coaches. They're going to come in. And as we're building this content, we want to be sure that our teachers are available so that we can say, hey, before we put this out for public view, Algebra 1 teacher, can you look at it? Is this quality? Or 6th grade English teacher, does this look right? Or 4th grade teacher, does this look right? So we will ask teachers to be available so that we can get their eyes on content before we put it out there. We're not going to overburden them with it. We just want to be sure that we're putting stuff out there that's good stuff that people can use. Students who have recently been assigned to ASH for 9-week credit makeup in order to graduate, Mr. Brown will be in contact with Mr. Reagan, Mr. Wallace, and then with the 5 counselors that serve both ASH and PHS to identify which students, which seniors were in the pipeline to finish up one of these mini courses in order to graduate. And if they haven't already been given a laptop or a hub or access to our online curricula, we're going to make sure they get it. So we're going to begin getting that list together, identifying the students, making contact, and getting this, making them aware that this is your lucky year, guys. Let's get it done. Any student who is close to acquiring credit, that's a senior, but hasn't been sent to ASH, but is kind of in that 65 to 69 range. We're going to find out who those kids are. We're also going to communicate with them and get them also on track to pass. Our fear is if this goes a 3rd week or a 4th week instead of just 2, and we don't start school, and we have kids that with some, our teachers are very, very gracious, and you got 65, 66, they're going to work with you as long as you're going to work. And they might smack some senioritis out of a student, bring them in and help them get to that 70. But if we're shut down for any more than these 2 weeks, it will be very difficult to do. So we're going to identify who those kids might be, and we're going to do that as well. We're going to reach out to them and find out who those kids are so that we can give them what they need. Communication of how to access content in English. We need the week because we do have people in this building who are instructional coaches that are bilingual. So the Class Dojo program does translate into Spanish and a myriad of other languages. However, the instructional videos are in English, so we want to be sure that we can translate those and have people here who will translate them and do a good job translating them. Now, what about kids who don't have a laptop or they don't have an unlimited data plan? They don't have Wi-Fi. What are we going to do for them? We're going to assess through our lunch distribution program. If you don't have access to technology, we'll also begin working on pulling our Chromebooks and pre-loading content on them that you don't have to have internet access. All you got to do is plug it into the wall and you can go through much of the same type of resources. Now, you won't be able to use like iRadio or iStation because you have to be on the internet, but we'll have substitute content. We will not be running off packets and sending out, tons of packets. We'll put it all on the laptop and we'll make the laptop available so the student can get in, open it up, and find quality content to reaffirm what they've been taught to this point. So they'll have access as well. We believe that between 80 to 85% of our families fall in the first category of some type of mobile device. But for the 15 to 20 that don't, we'll have an option for them, and that'll be the laptop option where we'll preload information. And we'll get those laptops out as we're running our bus routes to leave off meals. Now, in those situations, we will verify, we will verify that they are students, that we're not just giving a laptop to someone who isn't. So if you're getting a laptop, we will verify the school and the grade before we give you one. So we're going to work through that. Again, we don't know how much demand we'll have for it, but we will have it available. As soon as we get the content ready, it's a thumb drive to load on, and then we hand it out.
And then will they be asked to return that at the end of the school year?
Yes, they will. Yeah, we'll know where they all go, and they'll be asked to return them at the end of the school year, and then we'll wipe them all down and clean them all off and make sure that they're ready to go. There is some risk that we might not get some back. There is some risk that someone might spill a drink on them or something else. I mean, there is that risk, but the cost-benefit analysis says it's the right thing to do. And in most cases, people are pretty good. AP, ACT and SAT and TEA, a lot of acronyms, have all called off their testing. SAT and ACT probably at a later time will turn theirs back on. The only one who hasn't is AP. AP still plans to give their test. We don't know if that'll change or not, but they still plan to give AP tests. Now, our students don't have to score a certain number on the AP test to get credit. Which takes us into the next item, GPA. And we did have some healthy conversation about this. If you're taking dual credit at Wayland, you're still taking dual credit right now. I mean, you're getting ready to start back up on Monday. And they'll finish the year online because they're set up for that. AP is not set up to do online. The teachers that are doing the dual credit have had the benefit of notice that they were moving to that for the last couple weeks. So there's a lag. They're weighted classes. And in all fairness, for GPA purposes, we're asking for the board support in order to calculate GPA for us to calculate only the first semester for seniors of this academic year. So in essence, where you ended in December, that's where we're going to calculate valedictorian, salutatorian, and top 10. Otherwise, we have a situation that's very unfair because you have dual credit that's still going, and that parent says, my child still has the risk of not passing this class, whereas the AP, they stopped, and if they're passing, they're gold. Or on the flip side, they may say, it's not fair that they don't have to do any more work, but mine still does. Or the student in AP could say, I was getting ready to turn it into overdrive over the next 2 months, and I was going to really get some points, and now I'm not given the opportunity. So the only thing to do that is the right thing to do is GPA gets calculated based on December, because everybody had the opportunity up until December. And that's as fair and equitable a situation under these unprecedented circumstances. Prom, graduation, senior breakfast, our local scholarship gathering, our ASH celebration. The only thing that we can address at this time are the 2 weeks in front of us. We can't address anything beyond the 2 weeks in front of us. If we're back in school in 3 weeks, if the governor gives us permission, I still would ask the board to allow us at least Monday and Tuesday of that 3rd week to allow teachers to come in, get their classroom set up, get their instruction set up, get their lessons set up, get their lives set up, because our kids will have been out of school for 3 weeks And that'll be almost like starting school all over again. Rules, classroom procedures, standing up, lining up. I mean, you would think that folks wouldn't forget, but it happens. So 3 weeks out, if we're coming back in, I'm going to ask for Monday, Tuesday, just to be sure we get things organized, and then we'll start on Wednesday. If we do that, at that point, we'll take a look at what kind of a prom, graduation ceremony, and senior breakfast, and local scholarship and S celebration that we can pull off. It might not be as nice or as fancy as in the past. Now, in the situation that we still have the 10 or fewer ordinance locally or at the state or national level, there's no way we can do these things. And it's going to break a lot of hearts. There's nothing that this group of seniors deserve more than their prom, their graduation, their senior breakfast, their recognition, their awards, their athletic banquets, their fine art banquet, their local scholarships. There's nothing that they deserve more than that recognition. And so I'm going to ask that everybody be thoughtful and prayerful that in 2 weeks we're back to normal. But guys, it's not fair to give people false hope. We want to give them hope, but we don't want to give them false hope that we're going to get 2,000 people in the stadium and over 300 seniors sitting elbow to elbow and a lot of hands on a lot of diplomas across the stage. We don't want to give anybody any of that false hope because we don't know what this thing will look like in 2 weeks. We're going to pray that it looks better, and we're going to have faith that it will, but we have to be prepared for all eventualities. So for folks that have been asking about these very exciting events, after 2 weeks we'll have an answer, and to give an answer right now would be just not right. I think that concludes the information I have. Any questions from the board on any of the items here, any other thoughts, any other considerations that you'd like before we move to the resolution?
No, I would just like to say, I think it's prudent for us to do this, and I think you and your staff came up with a great plan. It seems like everything is covered. I'm sure there's probably questions that we don't know what they are. But just to reassure everyone, we will meet again in 2 weeks to revisit all of this again and see where we're at that time.
So we'll set a meeting up, as these 2 weeks conclude, we'll set a meeting up just to review everything that's happened. Yes, ma'am. And any new guidance we get from the state or the education agency.
And just to clarify, graduates, our seniors this year will graduate. They will get a diploma.
Yes.
And testing in a lot of ways is exempt, so actually, hopefully, 100% graduation. You'll be working closely with those seniors that may be on the border. Those will be a #1 priority over these next few weeks.
Yes, ma'am. That's very succinctly stated and very accurate. Yes, ma'am. I appreciate y'all's time in coming in, and I appreciate y'all's individual contact with me as we've gone through this time. And I appreciate y'all sending me the questions that teachers and counselors and community and staff sent you. I appreciate y'all sharing those to give us an opportunity to have as complete information as we can at this point in time. So thank y'all all for y'all's support, guidance, and leadership in this challenging time. I also want to thank the leadership team because while everybody's been on spring break, pretty much everyone that's in this room and some that aren't in this room have been working on what we're going to do. And there's been a lot of text messages going back and forth, a lot of communication, a lot of phone calls. Mr. Brown had a conference with the nurses and got information, visiting with principals. Dr. Garcia's been visiting with all of our maintenance, custodial, and grounds, and Dr. Richburg and his team. Doris is still making sure that everybody gets paid on Tuesday. So, I mean, everybody here's been working. Katrina and Robin have been really, they both already have like shells ready to go of some ideas, and I mean, they're a lot further along. You look at this list, there's a whole lot behind it. SFE's been really good. So none of this is one person. This is all many people. And many people have gotten together so that this can be as successful as it can be. So With that, I'll go back up here and we'll go to the resolution.
Yes, I think as a board and a community as a whole, we thank you all for giving up your time during spring break to come up with a plan that does suit our needs during this time.
With everything that I've shared and everything I've presented, I'd like to ask the board for consideration and approval of a resolution relating to emergency modifications to policies, closures of district schools, and expenditure of public funds during the governor's declared state of disaster to mitigate effects of COVID-19.
Board, if there's no other questions, do I hear a motion?
I move that we adopt the resolution Dr. Sanchez presented today, extending for the next 2 weeks.
We have a motion by Ms. Dickerson. Do I hear a second? We have a second by Ms. Ray. All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 7-0.
And as y'all know, within the resolution, any decision that I make that would be a departure from board policy or anything different than what I shared here, I have to communicate with the board president and be sure that she is aware before any of that occurs. And then when we get back together in 2 weeks, it'll be a full review of all actions that we've taken or any policy that we've stepped outside of what we've discussed here. And I don't believe that there will be much. We've been pretty comprehensive here.
Very much.
Thank you. It is 1:42, and at this time, we call this meeting adjourned.
Sheriff's